So I'm going to share with you how I turned a $280,000 investment into a $570,000 profit in less than 2 years on my third real estate deal. Here it is. I'm going to give you a case study on everything I did, how I found the property, how I acquired it, how we renovated it, what our business plan was, and some big lessons learned along the way that really helped us win on this deal. This is my third deal. So I made a lot of mistakes on our first 2 deals early on. I started on a 4-unit multifamily deal, did a 15-unit next, and now I did a 20-unit deal. My name is Chad Schuler, founder of Focus Capital here in Indiana, and I want to give you some education on how we go about these properties. So we do these value add deals, and this property called Woodruff Commons was just that. I wasn't the number 1 buyer to win the bid. In fact, I was the number 2 buyer and I missed in the first round. And what happened here is a key lesson for you to learn is the first buyer backed out because they found something negative during due diligence. And what they found was that all the tenants were on leases that ended on 12/31, end of the year. And if you know this market, this industry, that's not a very good time to have all of your tenants lease end in the middle of winter. So that buyer backed out and I ended up buying that property, the 20-unit property, for $1.55 million, which is $50,000 less than I originally offered to begin with. So a big lesson here is I win a lot of deals, or we win a lot of deals being the second buyer or first runner up, because buyers cancel all the time. They fall to contract. So never a bad thing to be second runner up. So we bought the property, right? We found a lender, did a fixed rate deal. I learned a lesson from my second deal to pick the right lender and do the right loan terms. That way they were fixed rate, not a variable rate. So made that mistake first, wouldn't make it ever again. So did a lender deal and they gave us an 80-20 deal. So they financed 80% of the property purchase price plus renovations. So my down payment was $280,000 on this deal. It's my capital in the deal. And we got the work. So we picked a PM company we already worked with in the past, and we started renovations. Now, the first thing for us to do was to renovate the exterior appearance of the property. So I'm all about doing curb appeal. If you fix the outside of the property first, you'll attract more tenants, higher quality tenants. We did things like landscaping. We added some bushes for the property, add some rock beds. We did some sealing and restriping of the parking lots. We did some signage updates, created new numbers for all the different doorways, put a new sign up front, just give it a fresh look. We even added new mailboxes outside. The old ones were looking pretty bad. And then next up was to solve some of the deferred maintenance. Now, this property was very, very well taken care of. And that was one of the things why I bought this property. Is my first 2 deals, I bought properties that weren't very well taken care of. And there's a lot of surprises when we first took over the property. Now, this one had been owned for a long time owner, I think about 15 years or so, and she had kept it very well maintained, high occupancy, and the rent's really low. This is a recipe for a huge win that I find out later on. So there was a couple small things here. One, the biggest thing really was all the circuit breakers were outdated. And this was going to be a pretty big expense to have to resolve. But I got a few different quotes, got them all replaced. That way they're up to code. And that way our insurance company could insure the property properly without canceling insurance on us. Next up was the units. Now, a big mistake I made on my second deal, that 15-unit deal, was we over-improved the units. And I learned a lesson this time. So I thought, let's just do a test on a couple different units to see what kind of rent we'll get before we do a blanket renovation of the whole entire property and try to get max rent. Now, we bought the property, it was missing one thing. It was missing laundry. There was no laundromat on site. There was no hookups in the units. There's no washers and dryers. And I thought, you know what? If we can give the tenants a place to do the laundry in their unit, that could probably be a reason that people pay more for rent. So instead of doing this for all the units, we did to a couple units at first, 2 units. We added a laundry closet. We actually framed it out. We had to run plumbing there, drainage there, dry ventilation, and electricity. Cost about $6,000 for each one of these laundry units. We also did some LVP flooring in the area. We did new paint, 2-tone paint, new fixtures, just some touch-up stuff. It's about $10,000 per renovation on the first 2 units. So we did that, and we got $1,250 a month in rent. Now, previous rents were $683 a month. Crazy, right? So we got a huge rent bump. Our pro forma was only about $1,025 a month in rent, what we thought we would get. So the key here is, like, we found an area that was pretty high demand for blue-collar workforce housing people, and they just wanted a clean, safe place to live. And we did just that. So now the first units were all finished with the renovations, and now it's time for the next 18, right? So we thought, you know what? We already got this rent at $1,250 a month. Let me just do a couple of units here without the laundry unit. Let's see what happens. Maybe the tenants don't really care too much about the laundry in their units. We did 2 more units, and we dropped our renovation costs literally in half, and we got the exact exact same rent. So I knew right then that doing this test on a couple different units was the right way to go to reduce your renovation costs, but maximize your return on capital that you're going to spend. So we did about 8 more units like this. We renovated a total of 12 out of 20 overall before we ended up selling the property. Now, along the way, we cash flowed pretty well. This is actually a great property, great cash flow. We had locked in our interest rate at 5% on this property. We had reserved a lot for renovations. We had plenty of capital reserves. So we learned early on that you've got to have reserves in place and to budget enough for renovations. We actually didn't spend all the renovation dollars we had. We just spent them all at all. So that was pretty cool too. So let me walk you through now about the sale of the property. We bought this property in March of 22, which was pretty close to the peak. And actually, I thought that we overpaid for it early on. I really did. I thought, oh, what am I doing here? We overpaid for the property, we paid too much, but it turned out to be just the opposite. So we bought it in March of 22. And in October of 23, I went back to the broker that I bought it from. I said, you know what? Why don't we try and sell this property? And the reason why I wanted to sell it was kind of twofold. One was we had already achieved the business plan and had grown the net operating income so much to where it was worth a lot more than when I first bought it for. And I was pretty far ahead in the business plan there. This is also a property I had bought personally with my own money. So I wanted to be able to have further velocity of capital and to put that money into a bigger property that's a little bit easier to manage. I could continue to compound the wealth with. And there's actually an owner nearby in that same area that owned 20 other units that was next door to me. And he saw this as being a great deal for him to be able to kind of play a monopoly and own both properties together to have more scale. So went to the brokers, we put it on the market, and we sold it for $2.4 million. We bought it for 1.55. So we made a profit of $570,000 on our $280,000 investment in the property. That was 105% average annual return, a 3 times multiple on our money. It was a freaking home run. So again, the lessons here that we learned in this property is number one, never hurts to be the second buyer in place. Deals always fall through. If you don't put an offer on the property, if your hat's not in the ring, you'll never have a chance to win the deal. The second lesson would be we tested renovations on the units, so we didn't over improve the units. So you don't want to go spend 20 grand on a property per unit to renovate it if you only get $100 a month in rent. The math won't math out. And thirdly, we didn't renovate the whole entire property actually. And the reason why is because we'd already kind of analyzed that, okay, this is the max price per door that we can get on this property right now, given the vintage, the location, and the net operating income. If we keep renovating more and more units, the amount of increase in value won't be proportional to the amount of capital to put in the property. So it kind of made sense to leave meat on the bone for the next buyer. That way they can do their own business plan. And you've got a wider buyer pool if there is meat on the bone than if you do the whole entire property and it's more of a turnkey property, which would be a lower cap rate. Guys, one of the coolest things about real estate investing that I've been able to realize is that you can do this from anywhere in the world. And right now, as you can see behind me, I'm not in an office. I'm in a bedroom office in Hawaii right now, my family. I spend the winters here every year. So that's why this location. We'll be back in Indiana here next month. So here goes. So hope you guys love this here. If you have questions, feel free to email me, respond to the channel here. Again, I hope this helped you so much. See you next time.